Welcome everybody to the first annual PDR Expo, and I'm honored to get to be the first speaker at the PDR Expo. If you don't know me, my name's Gene Fetty, formerly of Kiko, and I've sort of moved on and progressed to my own company. And today we are here to take a deep dive into glue pull repair. Some of my past talks have been very heavy on process, right? Almost building the foundation for glue pull. And certainly we're going to talk process today, but then we're going to dive deeper into larger damage, how to start it. I see Marty's in the audience here. Hopefully, because he's been critical in taking PDR to large damage. And certainly Chris White from Kiko credits Marty's tension videos with leading to some of the tension products. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk some new tools, right? Because we're all here and we all love tools. So I'm going to go over a handful of tools here. We are going to talk some process, right? Because that is where the magic happens. Using tension properly, not improperly. Moving into some large damage techniques. And then some advanced finishing techniques, especially when you are working with glue, right? You need to even be extra careful if you can't get a tool to it to not make those mistakes. And then we'll finish up with some Q&A. Now, it is a smaller crowd today, so I guess at any point, if you have questions, right, stick your hand up and let's talk about it. When I'm using two hands to show tools, I'm just going to project as well as I can to get through everything. So let's talk about some of these new products that are out here. And now I do have to go hands-free so I can do it. So let's turn our phones on to Do Not Disturb. That's pretty good. So let's talk about some of these products. The first thing I want to talk about is this big lifter here. So this is the Elite lifter from Cam Auto. This is the short beam because I didn't want to carry the 5-foot beam with me on the airplane. But interchangeable, right? It turns multiple beams, right? You just need one lifter. But what I wanted to show you and talk to you about on this particular beam is Charles has made a change. And down here in the end where you grab the tool or grab onto the tabs, this now has, I don't know that I can, if I can pull hard enough. You guys see that spring action in there? Right there? That allows for a constant tension. So that's maybe 3/4 of an inch of travel that we get. The reason that is important is if you're making a static pull, right? We're moving large damage up and then we start to work our crowns down, right? Getting that metal flowing back together. As soon as you start to creating tension on the low, you've effectively stopped pulling or greatly reduced your pulling. With this, the first thing you do is load up the tab with tension, and then you pull. As you begin working those crowns, right, and flowing that metal back in, the spring starts to take up and gives you an extra 3/4 of an inch of movement, right? So it's helping to make that metal flow instead of moving in static. Yes. All right. That's all I got. We'll try. Okay, we're good. So with the constant tension. So what I'm saying is, and I apologize you couldn't hear, when you're making a static pull, right? If it's just a screw or even just a ratchet, when you pull static and then start working your crowns and getting that metal flowing back in, you are essentially decreasing tension right away, right? Unless you continue to turn or pull, you're losing your tension. This constant tension adapter that's in the bottom of this allows the tool to continue to pull while you're working those crowns down and getting that metal to flow in. On this, similar to the Kiko beam, there is an adapter on top. I think it's like 9 millimeters or something odd. But or you can get on there with a screw gun and really go to town with it. It's really an awesome tool. These feet also pop off and pop on, right? You can go short and long, right? Great little tool. But that constant tension is something a little bit magic. Now let's talk more about tension. I've got a couple different straps. So these are the small tension straps from Anson. Right, you are gluing directly to the panel. Right, you've got your D-ring. Right, you can grab on there and pull tension. Scaled up from that are the new straps from Black Plague. Right, it's essentially a large ratchet strap cut down. Right, I think they're only like $23 on Keith's site. Incredible. What I like so much about the straps compared to all of the other tension that I've used is it is almost impossible to create collateral damage with the strap, right? Because it's at the, but if you're pulling any kind of straight with these straps, tons of movement. At Advanced Skills Seminar, I think they were testing these. They were getting around 700 pounds of spread with the Porta Power, right? It's really, it's such a simple tool, right, that makes a huge difference. So the straps from Black Plague and A1. Moving up there in the tension line of things, right, we've all seen the threaded bars. You know, hold my mic. Oh, okay. We've all seen the threaded bars. They work, right, but they kind of get in your way, right? If you're trying to make a pull while you're doing that, or you're trying to push, a lot of times that bar gets in your way. Kiko has come out with their lateral tension beam. So this is the large and the small, and then they come with tabs for going over your body lines and also flat tabs. These work in the we're glued on, right? And you start to apply tension with the knob. It is pulling either inside of the panel, or if you go to the next panel, right, you're pulling across. These are quickly becoming a favorite tool of mine, not just for glue pulling, but also for pushing. I just saved a Audi A3 door, and with the Access, all I could do was get a real sharp tool in there. Right, I actually used one of my hood tools through the mirror hole to get up in there. By having these and being able to place on the body line, you know, either side of the body line, and pull that metal out, it helps your body line flow up, right? You're no longer fighting all of that metal falling down into the dent, right? These are on the outside. I picture them almost like a couple guys putting a little rope, and you're like, all right, buddy, I'm going to push the bottom of the dent up, right? And then the tension tools become your friends helping you pull that metal up out of there. It lets that metal travel laterally like it's supposed to. Again, these are incredible. I think they are here at the show for sale. If not, certainly you can pre-order them on the website. But really just an incredible, incredible tool. Also from Kiko, while we were at it, is their new hinge tab. So I want to show you this one in action. So we're going to talk about this repair a little bit later. What I want you to see here is how far this jam was pushed in when I come around to the other side. Right there. Oh. I wish the video controls were a little better in PowerPoint. Anyways, what I want you to look is right at the edge, right at the door jamb, to see how much that dog leg was shoved in. Right, see that gap there? It was almost 3/8 of an inch. With this hinge tab, right, I'm able to grab on two planes. So it's called a hinge tab because it literally has a hinge in it. I'm able to glue the small side into the jamb, that little short return, and then grab the big face right onto the face, which puts the spine of the tab right on the edge of the jamb. Incredibly powerful, right? For a long time, the only tabs that were out there that could pull something like that were the Cam Auto 3D tabs, right? Bendable, and you could stack them up. This is all in one handy unit. And there's also, I just got it before I left. I haven't used it to talk about it in person, but Cam Auto also has a new tab similar to this for extreme reaching around the corner and grabbing on and being able to move that that light structure. Or for us, right, for PDR, it would be heavy structure for what we're fixing. Incredible stuff. Now back to here before I show you the brand new tool that I just learned about as I was walking up onto the stage here. Maybe my new favorite little slide hammer from Anson. In fact, we can pass this one around. Right, it's got the internal shaft, nice weight to it. It's a pretty short throw, and it's a smooth action. Really an excellent hammer. Stop over at the Anson booth and check that out for sure. Also new from Anson, not so much glue pull, but certainly PDR, are these new tips that cover your VIP style knockdowns, right? So if you want a smaller, softer hit, right? These are for that. I believe it's two different durometers, so two different hardnesses, and they've got a new tip adapter. We'll pass this around as well because they're so small. They have also got a new line of the UV tabs, right? A very hard pulling, snappy tab, and from what I've heard, not very prone to breakage, right? An excellent little tab. And we'll pass these small straps around too while you're at it. You didn't know you were getting put to work, did you?
That's all right.
On the glue side of things from Anson, this has probably turned into my new favorite glue. It's actually not that new to me. I got this from Craig right when they were testing this formula. So this is their hard glue for everything, not just collision damage, right? But even harder, heavier hit hail. This is a really hard pulling, but somehow still flexible glue, right? It's something that's just, get yourself a couple sticks, try that glue out. I really love it. They've revised the formula on their Gold Rush, their Brazilian hail glue. Now, Craig gave me this, and he said, take it back and don't try it on hail. He said they're having a ton of luck with this on the collision side of things, right, on large pulls. Check out the Brazilian Gold Rush glue. And then, of course, Anson has, right, their own collision glue, right? Not a hard pull, just the regular collision glue. It's going to be in line with your Cam Auto glue. It's going to be in line with your Perfect Pull glue. Just a strong, flexible, stays on the car, lets you work the metal kind of glue, right? Really great stuff. Then down into our cold glues that Anson sent over. So we've got their Dead Dent Tools cold glue. It's red. I would call this very Glexo-esque, just sort of a middle of the road, great cold glue. What I love about this is I don't have to buy a huge stick of it that sits in my box and then gets melted and I don't get to use it. These almost come in like single shot boxes. And I think they're only about 40 bucks, right? Which beats 150 or 200 and then it's melting in your box. Great stuff. My new favorite go-to cold glue that I've just been using for about everything is the new Sergio cold glues. So he's got blue, red, and green. The red and green are different temperature glues. The blue is just a beast. I've not seen another cold glue put the high spots in a car that this blue cold glue will. And again, also available in smaller packages. You don't have to buy huge tubs or huge sticks of cold glue, right? The Sergio's cold glue is awesome. And then if you're not using cold glue with your hail damage or even with your finishing, you're really missing out. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the slideshow. Cold glue as a finishing tool is completely underrated, right? It will speed you up so much. With that, at Anson, they have got some new, we'll pass these around because they're real small, new cold glue, call it hail tabs or finishing tabs. Yes. How do you use the strap? So, with the strap, the purpose of the two sides is to give you two separate pulls, right? So when you pull off, if you clean with alcohol, your strap's going to be saturated with your release agent, right? So you can use it, but you're literally gluing right to the strap Placing this where you would normally place your tension tab, your lateral pull tab onto the panel. Now, wear gloves, or I'll even take a hammer, right, just a hammer handle, and when I put this on the car, because it's so soft, I will just take a hammer handle and hold it in place. Let it cure up, and then it's ratchet strap, pull tower, yeah, whatever you want to use, right? But again, it's such a simple tool that's just absolutely genius. Thanks, Mark. Glue guns. If you are doing big hits, you need a lot of glue, right? And especially as we get better at pulling, right, better at moving big damage, we're working with bigger tabs. We're working with huge straps. You need a ton of melted glue that's hot, and you need guns that recover quickly. This cordless gun, this cordless collision gun from Anson is a workhorse. Now, it's hard on batteries, right? You better have a few batteries to go with it, but I've not found a better glue gun on the market at pumping out hot, ready to go glue and recovering fast. Yes. Cold glue tabs. So those lock into your slide. Yeah, so those lock into your slide hammer. That's the oblong piece on the back. Then you take your cold glue, mash and stick it to that, and then small finishing pulls. The Anson has those. Yes. All right. I think that is all the tools that are here. Now, literally as I was walking onto the stage and setting up my laptop, Chris White from Kiko called me and he said, "Hey, I know you're getting ready to go on. If you'd like to talk about this, it'll be sort of the world debut of the tool." Kiko has a pretty good relationship with Rivian, right? The new electric trucks. Also, the whole new line of Amazon delivery vans. So on these delivery vans, I think the sizes are 44 inches by 58 inches are what the panel are. Rivian came back to Kiko and said, "Hey, man, these things are getting cut apart. We need something that we can try to fix these panels with," right? And Kiko didn't have anything that large, right? Even your pull towers, right? You're gonna have to make a big extension for the perfect pull, Mark, to get up that high. So they sort of tasked Kiko with making something new. So the working name for this beam right now is the big ass beam. I believe it is 60 inches across, multiple pull heads. It comes with multiple 300 millimeter adapters, 240 millimeter adapters, and enough centipedes to run the length of those panels. Right, so here it is, kind of set up. So I know from teaching for Kiko for so long that those beams test to 1,500 pounds of pulling power, right? So doubled up and stacked up like that, that's going to be some pretty incredible power. Now, I don't particularly like working on vans, but I think I'm excited to see this in person. But anyways, that is sort of the first, the world preview of the new big ass beam that's coming out from Kiko, right? So it's something to see. Now, let's talk process, right? For years, right, everybody had all their little secrets to glue. Well, no, I put it on and I push, and then I have to bump it 3 times, and on the 3rd time I pull, right? Or, I have to take a virgin and sacrifice her to the glue gods before I pull, right? It all comes down to process, right? We need to stop thinking about glue pull as just something that's intuitive, and it actually is a completely repeatable process. It's also a process that you can go back and troubleshoot. Now, Kiko was the first company to make a process, right? To really sit down and draw it out and say, what are the exact steps to that, right? So for Kiko, it's check, choose, clean, coat, correct, and continue. And then inside of those 6 steps is like 72 more steps, but they work, right? If you want to give me a car and tabs and everything I need to follow that Kiko 6C process, I will get strong, hard, effective pulls every single time. Cam Auto, right? Their process sort of lives inside of the 6Cs. Turn the glue gun on 5 minutes before. Use 91% alcohol. I prefer 99. I think it works a little bit better. Warm your panel and tabs to clear out the moisture. right? And also to not shock the glue. Apply the glue to the tab. Now what I don't like here is pull in 45 to 55 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. It's not about time, it's all about temperature, right? And we're gonna loop back to the 6 C's here in a second and go a little bit deeper. And then, because we all have been glue pulling for so long, or for the most part, all of us have been glue pulling for so long, and we have learned to work intuitively, we don't need to go back and hit that process every single time, right? If you have problems, go back and see where you missed. But really, when I'm in the heat of it and I'm doing pulls and pulls and pulls, I do what I call act, right? I assess, clean, and watch my temperature. So I'm just assessing the damage, picking my tab, make sure everything's clean, flash, watch my temperatures, wait for it to cool down, and make a pull, right? It's just, you don't even think about it anymore. That's just what you're running through. So let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the Kiko 6C process, right? Because it's the most involved, and these two other processes live inside of the 6 C's. So check. We need to check what kind of material we're working on, right? For us, that's going to be mild steel, right? Our favorite, that's becoming harder and harder to find. Aluminum, which sucks, and high strength steel, which really sucks, right? But knowing what kind of panel we're working on allows us to sort of adjust our, really adjust our aggression, right? Decide how hard we're going to pull, decide what size tabs we're going to use and go after. But knowing that first is something big. Then we need to decide what kind of glue are we going to use, right? And I hope Anson's not listening. It's not just about the glue. It's more about the process and learning your glue and becoming perfect at it. Now, when we get into collision, we do want, I think you want to go to a collision style glue. That's going to give you a larger open time. That's before that glue gets cold and crystallizes and wants to break. Like tab weld, great warmer temperature glue. As soon as you drop down into the low 70s, that glue becomes super brittle, right? Your collision glues are going to stay flexible down inside of that range. You need to get this glue hot, right? 190, 200 degrees Celsius, upper 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 360, 380. We need to get that activated. We need to get it all over the whole tab. And when we get to the car, we want to make sure that we've got glue sticking out everywhere, right? We have great adhesion onto the panel, right? So pick your glue. As you move from check and then you start moving down into choose, the next C, you need to start thinking about where you're going to pull. And we're going to spend some time on my workflow path. Marty, I'd love to sit down with you and talk workflow paths off mic and see, because and if you don't know who Marty is, Top Gun PDR training, his YouTube channel is gold. The knowledge that you could learn from that man on YouTube is priceless, right? You should watch it. In fact, I think I even got my metal bumping book on Marty's recommendation back in the doording.com days. I like to work on sheet metal, strongest to weakest and deepest to shallowest, right? So if there's structure, we need to take care of structure first. If there's body lines, we need to take care of body lines or curves second. And once your strength is back in the panel, then we start attacking or going after the deepest portions and working up through, right? So we're going to talk more in depth on the Pacifica later in here, but right, incredible stuff. Then you need to pick your lifter. The big rule for your lifter is the feet of the lifter need to be on the crowns or beyond. You never want to pull anything with feet down inside of the low. And you'd be surprised how many times people they're in the heat of the moment, right? And they're looking here and they're working this dent that appears to be 8 or 10 inches, right? And that's what you see. And you're getting down in there and you're going after it. If you take a second and step back, that 8 or 10 inch dent is 16 or 20 or 2 feet, right? You need to make sure you are not putting anything down in there that's going to hold any kind of low in, right? Get that lifter outside of where you're at.
Hey, don't forget, Gene Fetty is over on the side saying about the Tesla. And don't forget to get over here and cheer you guys on that are in these competitions in the next round. We've got these guys over around today. Over tomorrow is going to be the free play competition. Which will be absolutely insane. All right, everybody have a great day and keep rolling and keep talking. talking and schmoozing and networking with everybody. You'll feel pretty good.
I needed a few extra seconds of filler anyway, so thanks, Lee. Another consideration with your lifter is, do you have a lot of displaced metal, right? One of the things that you really want to think about as you move into larger damage is getting that metal to flow back to you. So I never think of just trying to move a low, right, or just trying to move a high. I'm trying to get that metal to flow back together. So thinking about that, right, I may choose to use a beam that will get the feet out away from the crowns. I'm able to pull some tension, and then my hands are free. That's almost an extra set of hands for me where I can come in and I can start working those crowns and getting that metal to flow into the low, right? Does that make sense? Right? You need to be thinking that way. Then, right, once you've got your lifters, your glues, you've got your tabs picked, you're going in. Now we move into the cleaning step. You've got to make sure your panel's clean. The cleanest thing you can do is take a good quality rubbing compound, 3Ms, griots, anything like that. Run a polish over it, get that down to bare, clean, clear coat, and then always follow up with your 99% alcohol, right? And I really find that 99% cleans better and releases better than the 91%. I tell people 91 will get you by in a pinch, but you should be using 99 all the time. I get mine on Amazon for like 20 bucks a gallon, 25 bucks a gallon. It just shows up at my house once, or shows up at the shop once a month. Got it on auto renew. You never run out. You need to clean that panel, and then you need to clean your tabs, right? Always clean my tabs. You're never going to have anything too clean. Yes, sir. So the question is, what do we think about, or what do I think about denatured alcohol? Now, I'm not any kind of health expert or anything like that. Denatured back in the day was what everybody used. If I remember correctly, it is a lot harder on your kidneys than isopropyl alcohol is. So I go isopropyl all the time, right? And I'm sure there's health risks to that as well, but I've heard that there's elevated health risk with the denatured alcohol. So always back to isopropyl for me. I figure if it's good enough to like sanitize a cut, I don't mind getting that on my hands so much. So where are we at? Clean. Then we need to start thinking about temperature. Our first temperature to worry about, and that is getting rid of any humidity that's in the panel. Even here in Las Vegas, if we went outside and took a torch, I guarantee when we flash that panel, you're going to see humidity come out of the clear. You have to be getting rid of that. I use a torch almost all the time. No set temperature on that. You can actually watch the humidity leave. So hit that torch, keep the torch moving, and you'll watch the panel will fog, and then the fog will disappear. If you come back with the torch again, there will be no fog. That means there's no humidity in the panel. If you're not comfortable with a torch and you want to use a heat gun, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, where you're going to put the tab, ensures that there is no humidity. Right? When you heat the panel to 120, the humidity is gone. Now I live in Pittsburgh, so we're a humid town, right? It's certainly in the summer, like cut the air with a knife, humid, not quite Florida humid, but I've just gotten in the habit of flashing my tabs every single time. So before I pull, I will take my torch over the tab real quick, make sure that's gone. If I'm using a heat gun, I will flash and warm that tab every time. I like to get it to somewhere 95 or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Seems to be enough on the plastic. Marty, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you use a hot plate sometimes and heat them to like 160? Yeah? 140? Okay. Right, fast. Gotcha. Right, yeah, you want to work fast. You want to work while everything is hot. The faster you work, the better, and the better adhesion you get, right? I can remember back to being in the lodge at Kiko, right? And it actually turned into the Dead Center Super Tabs is what was born that day. What we were testing, are we getting a noticeably better pull when we're working fast and heating everything up? Absolutely, where you're getting a stronger pull. When everything is hot and you're working fast, right, it allows for those stronger, harder pulls. When you're applying the glue, now I know there's videos all over the internet that I think may steer you wrong. Some people say take that tab and just shove it onto the panel, right? You really want to mash it in there. No, this is not what you want to do. The picture I want you to think of is like a tile being put down on the floor, or blocks being put up on a wall. You got a bed of mortar, right? And you take your tile or your block. You don't just daintily set it on there and walk away. You're also not taking it and hammering it down and pushing everything in place, right? You're getting it down into a nice bed of mortar, right? A nice even bed of mortar. You should be putting enough glue on your tab that when you go to the panel and place it, you get nice squeeze out all the way around, so the whole panel is sealed to it. And I've never measured it, but I would bet probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a 1/16 of an inch of glue in the bottom, like a nice bed of glue. You do not want to squish it all the way, right? You're taking all the extra strength and flexibility that these glues afford you and throwing it away when you're mashing it out. Then we come to our next temperature that you've got to know, right? It's not the 45 to 55 seconds or 1 to 2 minutes or this or that. If you are going for the strongest, best, most effective pulls, you need to be using a temperature gun. And the temperature that these collision glues work the best at, my favorite window is between 80 and 85 degrees. Now you can work them like 75 to 90 is a working range, but if you're really going for that hardest, strongest, most flexible pull, you want to be in between 80 and 85 degrees. So that means, when are we ready to pull? I don't care what the clock says. I care what the temperature gun says. I'm waiting for that tab to get down to 85 degrees. And I'm in there, right? If this is my temp gun and this is my tab, I'm not back here like this, taking some average. Like, I am on the tab, reading all the way around, and I'm waiting for that 85 degrees. At 85 degrees, I'm ready to pull, right? I think we're out of the summertime, right? Maybe not here in Vegas, but most of the country is out of summertime. If you get into those hot days, right, where you're stuck, get some airflow going across that panel. Put a fan up, let the air blow across your tabs, and get it there. If you're coming into winter like we are, right, and it's going to be cold, I took an old light stand, grabbed a spring clamp and some lock line that everybody has laying around, and I made a stand for my glue gun or my heat gun, right? So now I can put my hot air 24, 30 inches back and let it blow on that area and hold those tabs right at that 80 degree range. And really, so a little side note, to control your temperature with a heat gun, move it back and forth. You completely control it with distance because it's consistent airflow at a consistent temperature. So all we need to do is find that number. So I know on the Kiko heat gun on high, about 30 inches back, gives me a spot about like this that stays at 80 degrees, right? Control your temperature, watch your temperature. You don't have to sacrifice any more virgins to the glue gods, right? You don't have to count to 3 and do a dance, right? Just follow the temperature and you will get incredible, incredible pulls. Once you make that pull, right? Or once you start to make tension, listen to the metal. I always tell my students that the metal will talk to you and tell you exactly what it wants to do. So I always think of it like this. If we start pulling a low, right, and that metal's moving along, good. The metal's saying, I'm good. As soon as that metal stops, right, that's the metal saying, dude, you got to give me some. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm stuck. Move a crown. I can't go anywhere. Same thing. If we start working a crown and we're hitting it and it's laying down, great. Keep going. That metal's saying, I'm good, man. Let's go. As soon as it stops, right, and you're hitting dents, that's the metal going, dude, you're caving my freaking head in. Where do you want me to go? Right? The metal's talking to you the whole time and will let you know exactly what it wants to do. So as we're moving, right, I'm always thinking about those double action moves. We're bringing the low up, we're working those crowns down and getting that metal to flow, right? And now we're adding tension, right? Going the other way. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Get the metal to flow. Stop trying to force it, right? It's like my little glue guy, right? There's sense in how metal moves. Just listen to it. Once you're done with your pull, release your tab, clean it off, right? And reassess the situation and watch all of those steps right over again, right? Does that make sense? And then you're sort of in this infinite loop until you're done pulling or the car's done, right? But that's where it's at. That is the process. That's sort of a quick, not too deep version of the 6 C's, but that will absolutely give you strong, effective pulls every single time. That's why I was never afraid to be here or at SEMA or at a manufacturer or at iCar and doing pulls. Man, is this going to stick? I don't know. No, it's going to stick. And if it doesn't stick, I just got to figure out which step I missed and go right back, and then it works. What's up, Sean? Any questions on the process before we start moving into some tension and talk some specific repairs? Yes, Marty? Perfect. So, here, say that again, if you don't mind. No, but listen, there's so much knowledge there. Hey, baby. You sure? All right. Pass it back up. You hand that to me. Thanks.
You guys are amazing about this business. You feed into something. But they need to hear you guys yelling and screaming and cheering on.
Woo! All right, back at it. Thanks again for the break, Lee. So before we move into process, or before we move away from process, this book is still in publication. It is The Keys to Metal Bumping. You can get it on Amazon, and it's been published by Martin Tools, so I think they make hammers and dollies. This is incredible collision and sheet metal theory, right? This book was like, I don't know, what is it, like $20, right? That is a wealth of knowledge out there, right? So if you're serious about large damage, whether you're pushing or glue pulling, get yourself this book. And again, Marty, thanks for the recommendation all those years ago. The yellow book? So there's also a yellow book by them. Bigger than that? Okay. Yeah, so there is another book by them that is a yellow cover. I think I may have that book at home. I may need to go revisit that. Perfect. All right. Now, if I had a soapbox, I would be jumping up on my soapbox. And Marty, I think you may appreciate this because I know it drives me crazy when I see people doing things wrong, right? And I think it may even drive you a bit more crazy. Now, again, Marty tried to tell us about tension on doording.com. That's got to be 15, 20 years ago? 15, 18 years ago. And if I remember right, you were taking the nail plates for like decks and gluing, so a large tab before large tabs existed, and made that, and doing metal flow. Now, this video, like at Dent Time, and I think it wasn't supposed to be shown, like it was like a prototype Kiko tool back when he got this, and it went out. But what happens in this video is where everybody went nuts, right? So let's watch this. Right, nice dent on the quarter, actually pretty good dent. A little bit of cool Mike Toledo editing. The new tension tool, and bam, like magic, the dent's gone, right? And I remember when that went out on social media, everybody was like, what's that tool? I gotta have it, it's amazing. And even now, we hop online, right? Get on TikTok and you're going through and you see these guys and they're putting a porta power on. They're pulling and pulling and pulling, and bam, the dent's gone, and then the video cuts. One, quit thinking like our customers. Do you really think that a collision dent is just going to magically pop out? No, I mean, our customers do. And after this video, right, a lot of PDR techs are the same way. Man, I got that tension tool. It doesn't work. I put it on. I bent the rod, and the dent didn't even pop out. Of course it didn't pop out. You think I could stand up here and talk about all this there if we could just pop it out? Right? We'd all be out of business if that was all you need was a $20 strap, right, and a little bit of glue. Quit thinking about your customer, or quit thinking and acting like your customer. Now, we are getting a little bit better. This is from my friend Levon, who I think is probably competing right now. If you're not following him on social media and you want to put out some really engaging, interesting content, go watch what Levon's doing. So he's just_a_dent on Instagram and @justadent on Facebook. Go watch what he's doing. So engaging, so interesting, and he's got a lot of humor. Now, I wish I could get the audio for this, but you can certainly go to his channel and watch it. And we have some subtitles up. So here we are, right? He's got a test hood. They're going to do some tension. I think these are the Metal Medic tabs. It's going to pull some tension and see what happens. Now, this is the smart play to get a scrap panel and try to learn on there, right? We've got a pretty good dent. I don't even know that you actually need tension here, but he's just playing and having a good time. Again, the humor is great on this channel. Struggling to get the porta power going. And here we go. I think we're just about ready to move. There we go. Now watch, watch. Here we go. 3, 2, pop it. Come on. There it goes. Right? Oh, the dent popped out. No, watch. It works every single time. Still needs cleanup. Right? That's a much more honest video or truthful video than that. No, I don't fault Mike for sharing the video. It was awesome that went like that. But know that it does need more attention. And really, you shouldn't be trying to, I wouldn't even argue, make your first moves with tension. Right? I remember, Marty, I'm sorry I'm picking on you. I was out at Sacramento. Corey Kleinfeld and Keith Cosentino had a meetup at Corey's shop. It was right when the tension bar had just come out. I don't remember what the car was. It was some sort of SUV. I learned so much just by watching how Marty dealt with that, right? So we placed the tabs. Ideally, I think we wanted to be on both sides of the body line, but we only had one bar. So we went above the body line, and he's down. He's really watching, and you're applying tension, and you down so that displaced metal is starting to flow down a little bit, and now make a little bit of a move, and then down a little bit of more tension. I mean, we're talking quarter turns, half turns at a time. None of this put a gun on it and send it. No jamming on it with a porta power, right? Easy, controlled moves, which brings us to our next video. Our friends, thanks Matt Moore down at Easy Auto Spa and his technician Mark here. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing how, so what Marty said is, right, we were limited with what we had that day. If we had the tabs and everything that we have now and went back to that, now I wish there were photos of that dent, but I mean, it was like a knot into the body line, and then, if I remember right, like up towards a concave, and it gets that big, ugly egg crown in the concave. Not impossible to move, very messy to move without tension. With tension, flows like butter. I mean, it just really flows like water when you can get that metal moving both ways. So let's restart this video. Now, this is by no means a perfect example, but he's our best yet. So we've got tension. There's sort of one of those ugly egg crowns above the body line, right? You know how hard that is to move. It just doesn't want to move. So he's going with the lateral tension setup, right? The screw jack style, going above the body line. Today, right, I would go on the body line or doubled up next to it or with the strap. Now he's adding a little bit of tension. You can see that slight bow in the panel. Now where I think he goes wrong, well, first he goes right because he's going to try to make an outward move. Where I think he goes wrong is he gets aggressive and tries to slide hammer it out. So we're moving that metal this way. You're allowing those body lines to move left and right. It's taking a lot of pressure off of that center and moving up. Now, he made a big move there, and then he sort of jumps to push, and he took the tension off. If I were fixing that, no offense to Mark, he's a great technician. If I were fixing that, one, I would not have done a slide hammer on that center pull. I would have likely gone with a beam so my hands could be free. So I've got a little bit of tension helping us to move that body line left and right. Make a lateral move that way. Get a tab into that low and with a beam, begin applying a little bit of pressure. Remember, think of those little guys, right? You're at the bottom of the dent trying to shove the metal up, and you got your buddies on either side with their ropes trying to help you pull it up. As you're doing that, that takes a lot of that pressure. I mean, like a lot of the pressure off of that crown. Sneak in around that beam, or today, right? Use straps or something like this, or just lateral to the body line come up. And then I will even continue pushing while under tension, right? If you've not pushed under tension, you are missing the boat, right? It really makes a huge difference, especially on those body lines. It will let you come up so much cleaner. And then last but not least is one of my students, U-Break. I fixed 47, so he's a body technician. In fact, if you want to learn a little bit about him, hell yeah! His name is Stefan. He's a body man out of Connecticut. He was just on the Ginger Bros show this week. So if you actually want to learn a little bit about this guy and his journey and what he's doing, you can go listen to that show. Body techs have really embraced glue pull, right? And I think they're actually learning to be body men again, right? I think they lost their way and became a lot of parts changers, and as it makes its way into that space, these guys, your real technicians, are learning to be technicians again. It's actually pretty exciting. So on this one, he sort of, like, even as a body man, does the best job of these videos that I've shown. He might go a little hard on the tension at first, but he's a body guy, not a PDR guy. His argument here in this video was that it made him more money to fix this door than replace the skin, and there was no structural damage with it. So he did move just to a first move, a first little release. He stayed under tension, and now fourth. Right now, again, remember, he's not working to PDR or even towards PDR on this. He's just trying to get it to where he can actually fix the door. But he's holding tension, and he's trying to help that metal flow. I think next he's going to come down below the beam. Again, to critique him on that upper dent at the body line, I would have been using a beam to hold tension and try to move some of that metal that's jumped up over the top back down into the door. But anyways, I wanted to show this because the progression through is like Mike did it and was like it popped out. And then Levon did it and it popped out, but it still needs some cleanup. And then Easy Auto Spa, right, made some moves and made it better. And now even the body men are taking it further and further, right? They're building on each one of these steps. So let's talk repair path. This is the strongest to weakest, deepest to shallowest. When you think about a panel, we've got to restore the strength first. The picture I paint in my head, right? I think in pictures. So I have my guys that help me, right? Where I'm pushing the bottom of the dent, and I've got guys with a rope pulling on the outside. When I think about how to start a repair, how to move metal, I think about these little greedy little trolls. I need to get them drawn, right? Greedy little trolls. So if we think about structure, let's talk about like a rear quarter that's hit that has maybe moved the inner over just a little bit. I see a little troll standing down on that tire, right? And he's got his grubby little claws and he's holding on to the edge of the panel and he's pulling it in. He's like, it's mine, you can't have it, ha ha ha. If we don't take care of that troll first, you are going to fight that repair the end time, right? We have to think about structure. I was down at Advanced Skills, and they had a pretty big hit, right quarter, and I mean, it was sort of shoved in. I think in the chaos, Bryce and Ken sort of like got a little carried away and fell away from good fundamentals, right? And they're into this, and they're making good moves, and they've got big tension. And then we're sort of getting close to the finish on the repair, and man, I'm sitting there in the back, and I promised I wasn't going to jump in, and like they're teaching, not me, but they're fighting and fighting, and I'm like, man, they did not address all the structure. Well, then a former body man got up, and he's like, guys, we need to take some measurements here. I bet that this bottom right corner is still in, right? And they took some measurements, and it was still significantly in. I don't care how good of a pusher Bryce is. Bryce can't outpush the tension, the greedy little troll that was in the back. You have to address that, right? So even the great Bryce Kelly makes mistakes. If he would have went back to the fundamentals, right, and started thinking about that structure first, or correcting that structure first, that lets that metal flow, right? If he would have been thinking and listening to the metal, man, it doesn't want to move. Well, it's telling you, well, I'm not moving because you got to give me something to move. You got all this metal stuck down here. You need to bring it up. So think about that structure. When I talk about this Pacifica quarter panel, it's 2 repairs from now. I will talk to and show you exactly how I walked through that process. Once your structure is up, what's the next strongest part of a panel that we would be working on after structure? Anybody? Somebody. Marty knows. Right, so you got me on the technicality of curved, but so crown, body line, yes, something broad, something sharp. So structure first, then broad-headed or pointed, right? So it could be a body line, it could be a tight crown, it could be, depending on the door, it could be one of those big swooping curves, like something strong. We need to address that next. Once you've taken care of all of your stress, right, and if you really want to go deep and talk about reflexing a panel, right, go watch Marty's videos. It's beyond my capability to explain. But once that strength is back, then we start attacking the deepest point, right, the deepest dent, and then going from there and working our way down to the shallowest, right? So if you think of that repair path, strongest to weakest, then deepest to shallowest, and if you have 2 parts that are strong, you go to the deeper one first, right? Follow that path, and you will have success every single time. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. Large damage tension. So let's talk about this a little bit. It allows you, teaching with Kiko, we always talk double action. So that's bringing up a low and knocking a crown down, right? Logical. We weren't teaching, right, because there weren't tension tools. We weren't thinking about how that panel moves. So if you have, let me see how I can do this. If you have a panel, right, if this is our flat panel, and it gets dented, it doesn't just fall in, right? It's not just a dent that goes like this. It has to, at some point, right, travel inward. The outside edges, right, my knuckles being the outside of the panel, when you get a dent, it's impossible for this to come down without these going this way. And certainly when we're talking about body lines, right, body lines don't just want to come in and out. They really want to travel laterally, right? Tension adds a third direction to metal movement, right? So instead of double action, which is low up and high down, right, tension allows us to add that third direction and move this way or this way, right? It allows you to flow that metal even better. It is not a tool to pop things out, right? You may get some movement, but don't think like the customer and be like, well, we'll just put it on here and it's just magically going to pop out. That's all I need is this strap, right? Really, really makes super efficient moves. So some of the tools, right? The Black Plague straps, right? Awesome. The Anson straps, right? With those, you're going to need or want some sort of pull tower, something to pull against, your porta power. Side note, tech tip, if you're going to use the porta power and the straps and you're on the face of the panel, that's a big old heavy piece of metal with some sharp edges on it. Get a pool noodle, split that pool noodle open, and cover your porta power in a pool noodle, right? It makes working around the panel much safer, right? Or pull tower, and then you're completely away. Tabs. I don't have any tension tabs up here, but the Cam Auto, the I-bar setup, right? These are great. The new ones will go onto the panel. They also have a little hook up so you can go port of power on the outside and you can pull laterally. Also from Cam Auto is it's got this red tab that is a slapper tension tab, and it's got a hard edge or a sharp edge for peeling your tabs up, right? Pretty useful little tool. Kiko has their tension tabs. Metal Medic, who I don't believe is here today, but Metal Medic's got some great heavier duty tabs. And then these lateral tension beams. And also keep an eye out, Jonathan Van Fontaine from Belgium, right, of Kiko fame, is coming out with a pretty, from what I've seen, pretty heavy duty beam tension puller setup. I know that we got some patents on it. It's a pretty interesting tool. I believe it drops sometime this month. So keep an eye out for that. Right, but tension is what we're talking about, and those are some of the tabs. Or right, you can even make some of your own stuff. Go watch Marty's videos, right? And there's some DIY stuff. I've even seen Ken Clark, right, the Man of Steel, take some 2x4s. Like, honest to God, cut a 2x4, glued it to the panel, and push with blocks. I think I even saw Bryce Kelly do that on a blue BMW liftgate, right? Think outside. No, but if that's all you got, yeah, I would. I'm telling you, I love these. The straps are absolutely incredible. So let's look here, right? Let's think about this. So what you're looking at is a camera overhead view looking down on the panel. I think I can get a laser pointer here. Yeah. So we've got, right, a bedside. The body shop wanted to put a bedside on this door, on here, right? They were like, no, we can't fix that. It's no good. Look. The impact came back this way. This is out, right? The way that bedside was hit, it just curled the whole bed out. It probably was a ½ an inch proud of the cab corner. I mean, it was in there. So my setup here is, well, I guess we'll laser pointer some more. I've got the Cam Auto Black Pole C. Back here, the portable glue pull tower with a strap and one of the Black Plague straps there. And then the Kiko K-beam with a centipede right below that body line is my setup. Now I think I've got this on a little loop here. I'm gonna put this away. There we go. So I think I've got this on a little bit of a loop. Honest to goodness, this is like under start to finish. This move, 12 minutes, 12, 13 minutes. It was fast. So it'll loop back again in essentially the one pull. Maybe it won't loop in here. It'll loop on camera. Let's play it again. Watch how with a little bit of tension, right, I'm helping the metal come this way because it was shoved not just out but back, pulling this direction and working a little bit of crown while we're at it. Taking the time to think about how that metal is going to move, set the strap up, get that pull tower so I can get away, and while I'm pulling the bedside almost two directions, right, back forward to the truck, and as it comes forward and I'm applying that outward pressure, it lets that roll right back in. Now, a pull tower, you could pull to something else, right? Pull to a lift. You could also come back. We've had pretty decent success, even just going back to the B pillar if we have to, right? Pre-pull tower, make a strap, come around the B pillar, and pull forward that way. It's pretty strong, and you're not going to pull hard enough to hurt the B pillar. But taking the time to like slow down, think about how that metal's going to move and flow, right? That's a big move. In 12 minutes, I could have just handed that back to the body shop and been like, it doesn't need a bedside anymore. Here you go, right? Handful of hours of body work. It's not stuck forever. That allows us to work that huge damage, right? And do some PDR smash work on stuff that we really never could have done before. Does that make sense? Any questions on tension? When to use it, why to use it, how to use it? No? You're all gluroos now. I like it. Perfect. So let's talk about, right, we used the pull tower there. Let's talk about some pull towers. They are great for making multiple pulls, right? The beams are great, the bridges are great, the K-bar is great, your leverage tools. They're all limiting, right? Because you're only grabbing on one thing. Maybe if you have an extra slide set up on a beam, maybe you can grab two, but for the most part, right, you're pulling in one point. With the pull towers, I can grab multiple points and make a move. I also am not stuck with a beam to work around or a bar that I'm holding tension and trying to work around that, right? I become hands-free. So let's talk a few pull towers. So the 12 volt, which is a difficult battery to find, 12 volt battery pump, suctions to the floor. You need a pretty smooth floor to use that. I will say that the suction, albeit incredible when it works, is finicky. If you've got any even small gouges, you're going to be moving that around the floor to find that sort of smooth area. If you're in somewhere with like a polished concrete floor, you would be money. That thing would hold on like crazy. But if you've got a rougher floor, know that you're going to have to sort of search out pull areas. In my shop, I have an old garage that if I took and I've got the like Swiss track style floor in. I pulled up a 6 square tile area to make that like sort of my pull station. And I took grinders, concrete grinders, and ground that pretty smooth so I can get a bite in my shop was my workaround. If I were to buy that tower again, I probably would buy the compressor powered version. I bet that creates better suction than the little battery powered pump, if that makes sense. Overall, a great tool. Just know you need a pretty smooth floor. And it's not pictured here, but you would also make sure you have the kickstand attachment out the front of that. If you do get a failure, that kickstand will catch it and keep it from falling into the car. Don't ask me how I know. Didn't happen. On the other side is the Kiko pull tower. Not seen it. Only saw a video that Danny did about it. It is another portable tower. I believe that it probably works on that suction as well. Something to see. The one in the middle is the perfect pull. Now I'm going to be full disclosure. Mark's sitting right here. When I saw it, I didn't like it. I thought it was a little overkill. I was a little nervous to jack a car up and like let it down on the frame or on a pinch weld. Fast forward and having gotten to use it and see it used, my only complaint with it, all right, one, it's heavy, but two, it might just be a little overbuilt, right? You did a great job there, Marm. It really is a spectacular tool. With this, you can work a few ways. You can see here. I'll just point to it. You've got these adapters, and I believe one of those is notched, and you can stack them up. Those adapters will allow you to set if you have a frame, allow you to set the frame down on the tool. You're actually going to use the weight of the car, the weight of the vehicle, to hold you in place. He's also got a big rubber pad that would allow you to get in and do the same thing. You can also go right onto the pinch welds, or if you can use it, right, depending where you're trying to pull, it's got ramps, and you can actually drive the car right up over it. I think I've got a picture in here to show you where, and you don't always need to be to the side. We were doing a Audi Fender, and I needed like some downward tension on it, so we pulled the car up on the end of the tower, right, and had it coming off at a 45 almost off of the headlight, right? So really a pretty versatile tool. It's got an adapter that sort of turns sideways in this picture that allows you to go left and right. When I show you the setup here, well, that slide's out of order. I wanted this slide. It allows me to put multiple straps across the beam or across the pillar, right? So I can get multiple pull points. Mark, how strong is that? How heavy have you tested? How hard does it? I mean, how hard? You're not going to be anywhere near. Yep. Nice. So okay. So I can speak to that. So he said the highest pull that he's measured is 1,100 pounds straight out. I was at a shop doing a Kiko training, and they were like, hey, this van's a total loss. We just needed the 4 doors. It's on a frame machine? Yes, let's do it. So we put one of the large Kiko centipedes on, so that's about 2x6 at 1,000 pounds of power, right? So less than your maximum pull. At 1,000 pounds of power, I was buckling sheet metal 20 inches away from the tab, and the car was beginning to slide across the deck, right? You do not, if you're pulling that hard, either you're doing it wrong or you shouldn't use it, right? Go after it. So let me, oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So this right here, there's that setup I was talking about. So I had a really nasty shot on that fender, and we wanted some tension this way to help pull that down. So we took and put the ramps on, we actually just jacked the car up and slid it right under, used the weight of that, and then didn't pull straight across. We wanted to pull down, so I picked this up at Advanced Skills, put one of the eyeball or one of the T-slot bolts down in the bottom beam, and we were able to pull down directionally, right? That was the way that metal needed to flow. And then you can't see it in this picture, or maybe you can just barely see it. At the top right, I actually had this on the other side of that body line, giving me a little bit of a spread this way, right? And there was 2 of us and holding it in place so we didn't lose the fender and everything. But incredible tool to get into. And next slide. There we go. So now let's come here. Now this curved centipede tab, and a curved cam auto tab over there, right? Sort of demonstrating how to use a little bit of everything. But I was able to pull all of those, right, at once and independently, right? So this is, I'm going to show you the before video of the repair here in a minute, right? The whole thing was shoved in. Having that pull tower is really what allowed me to save that quarter, right? Like, without a pull tower setup, and actually I used both pull towers. So I had the perfect pull under a tire, right, out with the beam, and then I had the black pull C just to the, I want a longer adapter, Mark. Perfect. That allowed me, right, to make all those moves. And when we talk about the actual repair, I'll explain what was going on. So here is that damage. We'll take a good look at it, and you can see what we've got going on. So this came in. This is actually an enterprise car. We do work for them at my PDR shop. Not a PDR job I was taking on. There were scratches, but the body shop wanted to put a quarter on the car. Right. Anyways, like, I need candidates. It worked out well. Let me see what we can do. Let me see how far we can take this and see if we can save the quarter panel for you, right? And then send it to the body shop and let them get some work. So let's play that again, and I'll sort of talk through what we've got going on. So we already know that the jam is pushed in. Look at how that wheelhouse is in, right? The inner and outer is gone. Now I'm not a collision expert by any stretch. We went in and inspected all of that from the outside, and I saw nothing there. But we've got sort of multiple skips down the body line. The wheelhouse is pushed in. The dog leg is pushed in, right? It's pretty significant damage. So, right, back to this slide, we set up to pull. Now the one little, again, not being in a body shop out of the box, right here, that ring is actually my finesse gutter hook, which works a lot like a body hook, right? So I actually took that hook and I was able to get up under the worst part of where that wheelhouse was pushed in and hold some tension. So we're not just pulling from the outside and trying to bring everything along, right? I was able to get back in there and hook into the inner structure and work that. All of the other ones went to the perfect pull, right? And we began to move that out. I even went one step further, and I don't remember what the name of that tool is, but it's like the Ultra Doodah, right? I think they sort of knocked the Doodah off, but that's that style. So we're able to hold tension with all of these straps on our lows. You can really see the gutter hook in there, right? So I've got the gutter hook pulling on that, and then I was able to go in off of the wheel with that doodah style tool, and the proper term for it is, but like there was not really much, if any, gap in between that inner and outer. Like it was there. So we were pushing essentially through the panel to bring it up. But that's that repair path, strongest to weakest. That inner was hit, right, and shoved in. If we don't address that, if we don't re-square that panel, you're dead in the water. You're fighting that metal. You're fighting that little troll standing on that tire the whole time, right? Go after it. And then this is what, now I spent time on this, but this was after what you just saw. This is after just the first of pulling, right? The wheelhouse is almost completely restored. We've restored a ton of that body line up. And in one round of pulling, right, probably, I don't know, 30 minutes of work and setup if I wasn't teaching, right? We took that from a very scary repair to a very repairable panel, right? If you think about this from a body shop side of things, you can even use these tools as almost a triage, right, in an attempt to repair. You could spend a half an hour and find out that, yes, we can fix it, or back to that bedside, right, in 12 or 13 minutes, take that bedside and take it from replace to repair, right, by following that work path, thinking about what you're doing and working slow and controlled and making the moves and having the right tools. Any questions on pull towers, attacking large damage, process? No? All right. So let's move into some finishing techniques, right? So this, everything we sort of talked about there is that big, heavy moves in the beginning, right? To finish, right, especially if you're going to go with glue, there's a few things I can teach you that I think will really help level up your game. So we're going to talk a little bit about cold glue. We're going to talk about a knockdown technique, and we're going to talk about revisiting tension for finishing, right, to helping finish. So your cold glue, again, like I said, if you're not, I got to work on these animations. If you're not, there we go. If you're not using cold glue, finishing out your repairs, right, you're really missing the boat. You're costing yourself some time. When to use it? Shallow lows, large soft lows, places where you're going to need to do a bunch of small hot pulls, right? The cold glue really shines there. There's a time and place for cold glue on large damage, but I see more times than not, technicians are getting themselves in trouble by being greedy and trying to go too fast, right? They're going back to that customer mentality. Man, I'm going to stick some cold glue on here. Bam, I'm going to pop it out. It doesn't work that way, right? Almost every dent you look at doesn't just pop out, right? We need to think about it. I would much rather see you making those pulls and working those crowns and getting that metal flow than going for that big hero shot that somebody's going to watch on TikTok, right? Slow it down. But here we were talking about finishing techniques. Again, it's fast and it replaces those multiple hot glues. Don't use it on the big stuff, right? Certainly not to start unless it is just so soft. If you've got a crown, go hot. Do not lock that up. Finishing, here's a little video I did. So this is just a little Kiko slide hammer, like the 1 pound hammer with the Kiko Glexo style tab and Glexo glue. Now we've sped this up, but real time I took this soft, oversized rail dent with cold glue, right, and never made a hot pull and finished it out. So, yeah. Right? So we're bringing it up. The way I decide whether I want to use cold glue or not is if there's any kind of pit in the bottom. If there's no pit, if there's no hard lines, that cold glue is nice and fast, right? And I'm not waiting for 4 tabs to go, right? It's just, bam, almost as fast as you can stick and pull, you can move. But you're not going to get depth out with that, right? You're not going to get sharp. You're only going to pull soft. But really in under 3 minutes with I didn't even have to turn my glue gun on, I think is why I did that. Then I hopped up and I'm like, I'll turn the gun on and I'll try cold glue. Right, and 3 minutes later it was done and ready to go. A couple of tips. use your smaller tabs, right? These ones that Anson sent over, right? VIP has some nice ones. I think they even have some Glexo small tabs. I dedicated a slide hammer to a small tab. And then this Sergio's blue glue on there, fast and hard. I mean, it really will pull a tight high spot. It'll pull almost on something that's not sharp. It will pull a high spot almost as high as a hot glue pull, right? It just doesn't have the sharp dent, but I mean, it is fast. I jump up on a hail roof, right? If it's light damage, there might be 20 dents on that roof that you honest to goodness have done in 2 minutes, right? Because you're just stick and pull, stick and pull, stick and pull, right? That's what's nice about these smaller hammers, right? You're like this, you're on and pull, and you just take it off, back down, bam, 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 right? It's a pretty incredible tool. It's also nice when you're finishing out some larger damage and you've got just those subtle little lows. You know, you're sort of cross-checking and you're looking. I did a quarter panel the other day, and if I like laid down and looked up, I could see just this little low, grab my crease tab with cold glue, pulled it to a point, bam, one pull, a couple taps, and it was done. I didn't need to fight a tool in there. I didn't even need to wait for cold or hot glue to set up, right? Start using your cold glue less for trying to be a hero on big damage and put it into the finishing side of your repair process, and you'll see incredible moves. Now let's talk a little bit about knockdown. This is like a pet peeve of mine. I've worked next to a few technicians over the years that, like, on my graph here, I think that's even the hammer they use. They live up here in caveman land, right? I'm not even sure what they're hitting, but they're a hammer on the panel, bam, 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 and not thinking, right? It's almost like they're trying to will the metal back down, right? Be precise. I want you to be more like Muhammad Ali, right? Remember, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Be deliberate with your knockdown, and especially as we're talking about finish work, right? Let's see how this video comes across to you. When I've got audio and a full screen and you watch like the whole 20-minute presentation here, back to that slide, right? We've got the caveman heavy hammer approach, and at the bottom we've got the butterfly, which isn't going to do anything, and we've got our bee, right, with a little sting. So I call this knockdown technique like my stinger. What it is a relatively sharp tip, and actually Peter from VIP is the one who taught me this. Just a touch of pressure, right? I'm not trying to push the high spot down, but just a touch of pressure. And then in this video, I use the hammer handle of my Craftsman hammer. My PDR hammer is even lighter. It's from CarePoint. You don't want like a hit and drive through and follow through. You want to sting just the high spot down. So it's like, instead of this, right, instead of a hammer hit, it's a sting. It's like you're almost snapping it, more like it's faster, not harder. Like think of it in a golf swing. You're here, and then it's the hinge. It's the same thing. That impact is a snap down. What that does is it only moves the high metal. Now this, right, I intentionally overhit it just a touch using the hammer head, right, and it's just going to be a little flick. Almost same high spot, and it caves all the metal down and around it. Now for years that was how I knocked down, was that hammer head, bam, 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 and it's down and up and down and up and down and up. And that was how Peter came over and taught me that. We were doing hail next to each other, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Glue pulling this roof that there's no access to?" He's like, "No, I mean with the knockdown." And I had my original VIP version 1 knockdown. And he grabbed it, and he looked at it, and he's like, "What are you doing?" The head was all mushroomed over. He's like, "You don't hit that hard." I'm like, "I hit it that hard." He's like, "No, you're doing it wrong. You need something really light," right? And I can't remember what he gave me. A little paddle, something, or maybe it was whatever it was. He's like, "Just sting it down, just that little tap, bing, bing, bing." And that high spot right now, instead of tap, 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 or bam, bam, and then pull again and up and down, using that stinger technique, just the little sting will allow you to move that sharp high down incredibly efficiently. Back to like slower is faster. Back when you were learning PDR, back to the doording.com days. Go slower, you'll be faster in the end. It's the same thing. As I was working with Kiko and I went to all these body shops and I'm teaching those guys how to use a light and how to do small tabs and little pulls, we all sort of get lulled to sleep because we're really proficient with a hammer and a knockdown. We're fast. Well, these body men were not fast, right? They've never done it before. It's a whole new skill set for them. So I really had to stop and think and dissect and slow it down and be very deliberate with them doing that and really being conscious of the little sting knockdown where you're just moving the metal, just the high, I mean, makes all the difference in the world. I just did a rail, brand new Denali pickup, good shot on the rail. Like, it was ugly. The final pull, the way to get it was a big Dent Reaper crease tab, right, sideways with it. And like, the thing wasn't giving it up, so you just had to pull it high. What made this big old mounted high spot? The guy I was working with, right, he couldn't finish the dent. He's like, hey, do you want to take a swing? And I pulled that up, and I'm up there, and I'm tapping. If we had a dent, right, because a dent and high spot are the same thing, just depends on what side of the panel you're looking at. If we had this high spot, would we ever go in with our rods and try to shove that out in one move? Or would we just randomly be in there pushing? No, we'd get in, right, and if we're trying to be cautious, we're in, and it's one little push, and we're just moving the metal. Start to think about your knockdown work like that. That's what I did, right? Nasty, tight, high spot on the rail's, what, 3/8 of an inch wide. It comes up and goes like this. I sat up there with light stinger taps and never made a bad mark. Just like I were pushing the dent, I laid that down nice and flat with a knockdown. There's no hard drive. Hard drive is going to be trouble. And then if we miss and you make a little tiny dent, that's brutal to try to do with glue, right? Right? Slow down. Think about that stinger move, right? And just make it happen. Try it. Get something really light. Just turn your hammer handle backwards, right? And just light little taps with a sharp knockdown. It'll change how you work. It'll also change you thinking about how hard you start ripping those dents when you're glue pulling. No need to go wham and send it to this mountain, then you got to knock it down. Pull it up. Stinger taps, nice and clean and flat. Does that make sense? Any questions about anything? You missed it, dude. I talked you up. You were on the screen, right? There's Lee one. There's Just a Dent. So go follow him on all the social medias. So, any questions? No. All right. Damn, thank you so much for your time. No, you missed question time. That was a slide. No, go ahead. No, I have not. In fact, so his question was, am I seeing any problems pulling paint with the straps? And I'm not. It's such a strong lateral, like you're really not, I'm not saying you couldn't pull paint with it, but it's such a flat pull that I really don't feel like you're compromising the paint, right? You're not, that paint wants to come off outwards, right? Because we're pulling lateral, and I mean, like, you just don't understand how strong it is. Until you put a strap on the panel and you're starting to apply tension, you don't understand just how hard that is pulling over. Like, it is an incredible amount of power. So no. And to release the glue, alcohol comes right off, and these actually just, they do dry in just a few minutes. But you could, right on the Anson, in theory, you could do 4 pulls with this. You could put glue on any side of both straps and don't take it off. Same thing here, right? You could glue to this side, and then if you needed to move, don't even take that off and get your alcohol involved. Flip this over, put it on, and go the other way. Any other questions? No? So, like I said, AAI is my new company that's doing training. It is a lot of work to get a new company off the ground with social media and content. That QR code will take you to our little link tree. You can follow us. Please follow us on social media. And then all of these repairs are part of our GPR masterclass that we are hoping to be launched next month. So do me a favor and keep an eye out for those. Mark's perfect pull is in there. downloaded a ton of the information that's in my head. If anybody would like a little Guru sticker, I've got some Guru stickers up here. Please feel free. Everybody likes stickers. Thank you all so much for coming out. Enjoy the rest of the expo. And go over and cheer these guys on that are competing. That's way more stressful than trying to stand up here and talk. So thanks so much, guys.